YouTube, I am back, and I have just finished reading Hollow City, the second novel of Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children by Ransom. And oh my goodness, I love this series so far so much. Like, honestly, for me, it's close to Harry Potter and Percy Jackson status, and that is a very hard thing to do. Like, those two are like the best books in my mind ever. And this is getting pretty close, and I've only read the second book. Usually it takes me a while to get to that stage. Like for Percy Jackson, I had to like read more of the books, and that's how it got as high as Harry Potter. But this series, oh, it is doing some good things right now, and I just hope it carries on. If you did not see my review of the first Miss Peregrine book, go watch that now. And hopefully you've read that book, and then this is the second one. If you do not already know, these books, they deal with old Polaroid pictures, kind of. Like here, let me get an example so you can see. Like that. Hopefully you can see it. They're old photos that Ransom uses to form, and then just like, I don't know how to say it. He bases his storyline, his characters, and all that stuff on those photos, or uses them to enhance his story. And I think that's a really cool idea. I like it when books do stuff like that, and I haven't found many that are so unique. Another example that kind of has a unique storyline or way it's written is 13 Reasons Why, where it's basically just a recording and stuff. So it's written in that form. Or I forget what the books are called, but they had like little YouTube clips that you would go, like, it would send you a link. It would give you a link, and you would have to go on YouTube or the internet. I don't think it was on YouTube. Anyway, you had to see a video somewhere on the internet. And I thought that was really cool as well. And I think this is a really interesting thing, using the pictures. Other than it being a really good book, I don't have any other non-spoilery things to talk about. So if you have not read the book, I greatly recommend it. It is really, really good. And these books are actually going to become a movie, so I mean, if you're the kind of person who wants to read the book before the movie, I suggest you start soon, because I don't know exactly when the movie's going to come out, but sometime in the near future it will be out. So recommend reading it then. If you have not read the book, please leave now. So on to the spoiler things. I'm going to jump right in it, just like Ransom does with this book. He does not really explain what kind of happens. He's kind of expecting you to remember. And it wasn't that hard. I had read this quite a bit of time, or the first book quite a bit of time before I started the second one, and I still remembered most of the stuff. I mean, like, some of the characters, I couldn't remember exactly who they were, but, which was nice. Ransom Riggs put like a little character description in the front. So that was very helpful, because I would always forget which peculiar child had which peculiar power and that kind of stuff, and so that was really good. This, of course, started out them trying to get Miss Peregrine to be fixed, because she is stuck in bird form for some reason. She, I think, injured her arm or something, and that's why she can't change. Or she was given poison or something that forces her not to change. I think that was it. So they're trying to find another Imbrin, or another lady that turns into a bird, to try to help Miss Peregrine. And during that journey, they are running from the other Hologast Whites and that stuff, who are after them, who want all the Imbrins, so that way they can have their powers and not age and live forever and become like demigods and stuff of the world, and just power, that kind of stuff. So that's what is currently happening. The descriptions in this book are just so great. Like, honestly, even though Ransom is kind of basing some of the parts from the little pictures he finds. He brings so much like imagination by himself, like so much imagery and stuff, and it's great. In the beginning, they were coming from their little island of Cairnholm, I think. And so they were on boats, and they had the whites chasing them and all that, so there was that. And then because they were traveling like dangerous waters, which we had heard about in the first book, they kind of lost most of their belongings because I guess one of the boats was capsized, so they lost everything. Except for a very important book, which they had dismissed at first as being non-important. But it was the Tales of Peculiars, and it tells like little fairy tales kind of peculiars and that kind of stuff. And the stories themselves that we've heard, they were just great. But the fact that they have some like truth in them, like they actually happened in the story, like the story is real. The story within the story is real in the story. If that makes sense. That made me so happy. It was just perfect. And there's peculiar animals. That's just great. I mean, I just love the world that has been created for this. Even though it's kind of based off of our world, it's just great. And I love it so much. And like I said before, this book really stands up to the first book. Like it doesn't get worse. It even gets better, I think. And I think it's partially because of how the world was created. We can see so many different time periods because the time loops happened at different periods. So like the one Miss Peregrine's in is like 1940. So most of this book happens in the 1940s. But when they go into other time loops to try to find other Imbrans, they go to different time periods. And I think that's so cool that we can see different aspects of time and like different worlds within this one world. And then also what makes this great is the characters. We're introduced to so many more characters, like Addison, the talking dog, Sam and Esme, who Sam is a peculiar and Esme is her sister. So we see them, which they have a great story as well, even though we see them for like a short period of time in the books. Like with this, all the characters that we meet kind of have an importance to them, and they have like cool aspects, and I just love that. While we're on characters, there's a couple characters that I would like to talk about. I kind of have some like character MVPs. I have really three, but I'm going to talk about four. First one is Jacob. Second is Wynn Bronwyn, I think is her full name, but she goes by Wynn a lot. Third is Hugh. And fourth is Emma. One of them is obviously Jacob, who is the main character who's narrating, so he's very important. And in this book, we see him kind of lose his self-consciousness, lose his lack of responsibility. And he kind of grows up. He becomes comfortable with who he is. And even though he has found some independence, he also learns how to be part of a team. And I think that's great because in the first book, like the first couple chapters of the first book, he doesn't want to work at his job. He really only has one friend, and even him, he's like, I don't really want to hang out with you, but you're the only person I can kind of even partially tolerate. And now he's basically looking out for and protecting a whole bunch of kids that he kind of just met, and he feels like a familial relationship with them, which he just changed so much from the first book. And it's just great. I like who he's become. And even though he has become stronger than he was in the first book, he still kind of has those tendencies where he wants to do the right thing, but he doesn't really know what exactly it is. So, and that's where the other people come in, like all the other characters. They kind of help him in making the right decision, which I thought is great. And also he's become hardened, but all of the kids kind of had to do that because they're on their own. They're traveling from Cairnholm, which is off of Wales, to London by themselves without any like parental or strong guidance. And I think that Jacob kind of rises to the occasion, even though he seems at times a little unsure of what to do. But I think that's what makes him great, that he is unsure because he does want to protect everybody he's with. And that's a hard job to do, especially with someone who hasn't really had that much experience in the real world. I think he's only 17, if that. So imagine you're 17 and you have to protect like at least 7 other kids, and you have to bring them like a long distance where you don't even, like, there's no cars and that kind of stuff. Well, there are cars, but not modern stuff. Like, they don't have modern equipment. So it's just hard. For Wynne, her peculiarity is that she's extremely strong, and so you'd expect her to kind of be violent and that kind of stuff, like how it was normally perceived when you see someone who's extremely strong. But like Hagrid, she's very innocent. She's extremely moral. And she's kind of the mother of the group because Miss Peregrine isn't there to care for her. She's kind of caring for the younger kids like Olive, I think. The little girl who kind of floats. Like, she can be physical when needed. She will not do it without a reason. Like, there was this one part where they were kind of taken by the gypsies because there was a whole big misunderstanding. And the whole plan was to use these exploding eggs, which they had gotten from the peculiar animals, against them. But Wynne was like, no, we're not going to do that because there are innocent children who have done nothing. And just little stuff like that, you kind of see how moral she is, even though she could honestly kill someone very easily if she wanted to. And she has displayed how strong she is against people who deserved to see her strength and stuff. As for Hugh, I have to give him props. He managed to evade being captured when the other kids were. He somehow slid in between, like, where the train would go. He slipped down there off the platform and hid there, and was smart enough to stay hidden. He used his peculiarity, which is that he kind of has this way to control bees. He has some kind of special connection with them. He used the bees to follow where the whites were taking the rest of the peculiar children, and then he's smart enough to know when to attack them, and he uses his bees. Like, there's just a storm of bees, so he really saved the day, not once but twice, because he did that again when they had actually reached London. And so Hugh uses his bees again, which he didn't have many left because apparently obviously bees, if you did not know, bees can only sting once and then they die. So all the bees that had stung and saved the day in the first instance, they all died, which is quite sad. But then, so shortly after, without being able to collect more bees, the few bees that he had to go and save them again, so that they did not, like, regress and leave London. So he was another, like, powerful figure, I think, in this book. And then, of course, there's Emma, and I just love Emma. She's like such a great female character. She kind of reminds me of Annabeth, kind of, but obviously they're different. Emma, she's very strong-willed. She's very powerful, I think. Her peculiarity is she can light herself on fire, like she has the power of fire or something. And so there's that. That's obviously very powerful in itself, but she's like very good at controlling it. She's very even-tempered. She's kind of leading them along with Jacob. So she's another leader. But also she's very, very sassy, and I just love it. Like, Emma, while they are trying to find the other inbred, they are entering the freak show, and a kid asks them, "Oh, what are you guys doing back here? Are you guys performers?" And then this happens. Feigning offense, Emma said, "Of course we're performers." And to demonstrate, she made a tiny flame on the tip of her finger and stubbed it out in her eye. Like, honestly, she is just so great. Like, all she had to do was basically just light her hand on fire, but no, she had to light just her finger and then put it out with her eye. Like, honestly, that's just great. That's just perfect. I love Emma. She's just great. But yeah, though, that's it for characters. The other children, they are important and they do play big roles, but I think these four were kind of a little bit above them. There are so many little philosophical important parts in this book, and this is what makes this book, I think, great in my mind. Like the same thing with Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. It is geared towards children or young adults, and they do have aspects that are aimed towards that kind of audience. But then they also have deeper parts that, when you really think about it, it's like, shit, this is for kids or younger people? This is bad, deep stuff that's happening. And one of the things that I had put down is that when everyone leaves Sam, who is the peculiar child, and Esme, her little sister, they both said that the group of peculiar children, like Jacob, Emma, and all of them, that they aren't good-hearted, and they only care about Miss Peregrine and then saving themselves. They don't care about normal people, because they kind of were ready to leave Esme behind because she was not peculiar, and they were just going to try to save Sam. And that's true. They are kind of focused on themselves. But then again, if you think about it, they were kind of forced into hiding for being peculiar. So it's kind of there's no right side. And there's also a whole bunch of dark subjects. For one, there's the World War II bombings in London. That in itself is going to be a dark subject to go through. But we actually get to see some of the bombings. We get to kind of feel how it would have felt to be part of it, because while they are trying to find one of the loops that the Miss Wren is in, their bombs go off. Bombs start to fall and explode. And Jacob, who never has really felt anything like that before, has gone through anything like that, and he's just kind of scared. He really just wants to run away or hide. It was just really, you could feel how scared he was going through that. It's also about kids trying to save their inbreeding, like I said before, and they're on their own. They don't have any guidance. They're basically just doing it by themselves. And like I said, I think Emma and Jacob might be the oldest, and they're around 17-ish. But there's Olivia, the little girl who floats. She's one of the youngest there. And there was another one, I don't remember her name, Claire, who has the extra mouth on the back of her head. They're very young. I don't think an exact age was said, but they're very young. They're probably around 8-ish, 9-ish, I think. Claire might be even younger. She might be a toddler, I think. But still, they have to deal with that. They have to travel with no help. They don't really have they don't have any food with them. And then on the way, Claire gets sick. And they're on their own. They honestly don't have anyone else help them. Yes, when they get to the peculiar animals, they get some help, and Claire and, I forget her name, Claire and Fiona, they stay with the animals to try to get Claire better. But we find out that they were actually kidnapped first by the whites. So they're still kind of on their own with no help. Another thing is that Jacob, he's obviously alive. But because he is now in the 1940s, he's not in his time period. His parents think he's dead, and he has no way to tell them otherwise. Yes, he had written them a note before leaving to stay with the peculiar children, but I mean, his parents are worried sick. We see through dreams that Jacob has that they think he's dead. And that just thinking about that, leaving your own time and going in the past and not being able to come back, really, that's kind of not as dark as some other things, but that's still kind of whoa. Also, another adultish kind of subject, I guess, is that when they finally reach Miss Wren and they find out that Miss Peregrine can be saved, Jacob has this decision to either stay or to go back to his regular time period, the modern day, because Miss Peregrine is the only one who can send him back to his time. And so Emma kind of pulls him to the side and says that he should go home. He has a family to go home to, which is something that the other kids don't have. So she's kind of saying, you should go back. This is not his problem. But of course, Jacob needs to decide for himself what he wants to do. Does he want to go back home and forget these friends that he's kind of been protecting and he's been with for, even though for a short period of time, they've been through so much together. How can he just leave that? But then again, how can he stay when his life is basically on the line because of the whites and stuff? So it's a really hard decision for him to make. And I mean, it would be hard for anybody. I think even adults would kind of have a hard time picking what is right. There's just unbelievable stuff happening, and it's happening to kids. And it's a book for young adults and kids, I guess. I think more young adult. Anyway, it's still darker than you would have thought it would have been. Even though the pictures in the first book were scary and you kind of could get a hint of it, it's so much darker than you would get at first glimpse. But that kind of is balanced by all the funny parts. Like I said, there's the part with Emma, and then there's like the friendship that all these children have together. That's kind of like a bright part. Emma and Jacob's relationship, that's another thing that's kind of uplifting. And the animals, finding the peculiar animals, that's also like uplifting. And I think that's what, again, makes this a great book. It has a great balance of good and bad. And the fact that the bad stuff are like quite bad if you think about it a lot, which I kind of did. But yeah, this book was great. Just so great. Honestly, I recommend it so much. Just honestly a great series. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you read this book and you watched all of this, please let me know what your favorite part was, who your favorite character is so far, and what you think is going to happen in the next book, which is coming out in September, which I can't wait for that. So yeah, please subscribe to this if you are not already. Please like and share this video if you enjoyed it, and please stick around for the next video I make. Hopefully it'll be up a lot faster, which I apologize for. But it should be up. There should be more stuff coming soon. Well, there definitely is going to be more stuff coming soon, but hopefully it'll be up quickly. So yeah, thank you for watching.